Well, hello there. Welcome to day one of Rose-Hulman's CSSE 490 Android development class. The website for this course is going to be www.rosehulman.edu/android. If you try it today, it might not work, but we'll fix that and make that link happen real soon. Where it should take you to the course website. Going to inevitably be spending a lot of time in this course referencing information at the course website. You can see it's a Google Doc. It's my preferred way to do classes. And you can see that I copied and pasted a bunch of stuff from my iOS class. So these are now Android topics. If you want to go to the iOS class, by the way, just replace the word Android with the word iOS. A bunch of information in there about that class. But today we're going to be talking about, or this quarter we're going to be talking about Android instead. And so for each class, we're going to have the slides up. If you want to ever follow along on the slides, that's welcome and encouraged. What you're expected to do for the next class, and then what you're supposed to have done for this class as well. So let's go ahead and keep trugging along. So the assumption is that you're entering this class to learn about Android development. We're assuming that you've got a background in Java. The students to take this class have to have taken at least 2 programming classes and should already know Java, should already know object-oriented programming, and should actually at Rose-Hulman already have the Eclipse IDE installed and set to go. To do development with Android, there are four tools you're going to need. You're going to need the Java JDK, which you should already have at Rose, the Eclipse development environment. You're not required to use Eclipse for Android development, but there's a lot of tools that are built off of using Eclipse. And for this class, I'm going to expect that you're using Eclipse. There are a couple downsides of using Eclipse. There's some things that are slow, but details. In addition to those two, which you should have already, you're going to need the Android SDK. To install the Android SDK, you can go to the developer.android.com site. May as well bookmark this one now. We're going to be here a lot. This is kind of the one-stop shop to all things that are provided by Google about Android. So developer.android.com. Learn it, love it, use it. Things that are in here, the SDK, if you're ready to start your download. If you don't have the SDK, you may as well start the download now. There's some big files that you can download. This is just the beginning. You'll download a bunch of other things once you kind of start the download, once you install the Android platforms. There's also good references, and there's a lot of useful stuff there. You'll just end up using that a lot. So if you don't already have it, may as well start the download now while I'm talking. Go ahead and get the Android SDK. After you get that installed, there's an Android Developer Tool plugin for Eclipse. There are instructions on the website, the developer.android.com, about installing that as well. May as well get that download going. So this being the first day of class, there's a couple things we're going to do that are administrative, but the class is 2 hours long. Decided it would probably make the most sense to spend the first part of the class doing a demo. So I'm assuming that people haven't seen Android development at all. So going to do a demo, just kind of walk you through a basic little app. During the class, I encourage people to ask questions, but obviously that's hard in the video. And this is just for you to sit back, relax, see what's going on, ask questions about things you don't understand, things like that. So let's go ahead and let's see about doing a demo. So if you'd like to follow along, one of the best ways to follow along is just to go to the website and click on the first day demo. You can follow along with the slides. The demo that we're going to be doing is called Years at Rose. So it's going to be focused on a couple of objects, a text view, a button, and an image view. And it's just going to be responding to clicks and things like that. What this app is going to look like is you're going to say the number of years that I've been at Rose-Hulman. This is me, Dave Fisher. So I've been at Rose-Hulman for 10 years now. 4 of those were as a student, 6 as a faculty member. And you can click on increment and decrement, change that value. You can also click on the menu, and it'll open up increment and decrement on the menu as well. So let's go ahead and fire up Eclipse. I obviously have the SDK installed, all the things ready to go. and I'm ready to make this project. So to start things off, I'm going to say File, New Project. I'm going to select Android Project and say Next. When you start a new project, it asks you about a bunch of different names. So I'm going to call this one Years at Rose. Obviously, I've already done this once. I already have something called that, so I'm going to call it Years at Rose Video for making the video. The project name is what's going to get displayed in your Project Explorer. Next question on here is whether you want to make a new project or use an existing source code. The reason this question even exists is because there's a lot of samples that are built in. We'll talk more about the samples, and I think it's Lab 2. But most of the time, you're going to be creating a new project. The next is to select the SDK that you're going to be working with. For a couple of things that we're doing in this class, I'm going to pick Android 1.5. That's because when we're getting started, there are a lot of things that haven't changed dramatically since 1.5. So I'm going to select 1.5 a lot just to show that it'll go back through the different SDKs. There will be some things later in the course where we need to use one of the newer ones. But I'm going to select 1.5 because that'll work fine for a lot of our purposes. Also, the reason I do it is because the device I've got is an old T-Mobile G1, and it's based on Android 1.5, so I use 1.5 a lot just so I can run it on a real device. The application name is going to be what appears below the icon, so I'm just going to say Years at Rose. The package name is typically a reverse DNS, so I'm going to say edu.rosehulman.years at Rose. And it will actually create folders for you with those things. The activity is going to be the name of the .java file. It's also going to, we'll talk more about activities as the course goes on. I'm just going to give it the same name, Years at Rose. And the minimum SDK version that a device can run on is going to be version 3. So I'm going to go ahead and make that match my SDK. For everything I've ever done, I've made that match, but I guess there are reasons where you don't have to. So let's take a look at what we got for free here. It's kind of at the bottom of my screen. I apologize for that. So some of the things that the template does for you, which are kind of cool, is you can actually run the template already. So if I right-click on it, I say Run As Android Application. The very first time you do this, you'll have to create a new emulator. The book that we got will talk you through that process. You can see I've already got an emulator set up. This is an emulator to use Android 1.5. We'll let it boot up for a second. The things that you got in here for free, you got a Years at Rose.java file. This class extends activity. The activity is the main, it's the screen that you see. It's a user interface, group of code that runs, that's visible on the screen. Activities basically start with an onCreate method. As far as you're concerned, this is the first place where your code kind of comes in. So this is essentially your main method. This is where you start writing things. What's in here, as you can see, it calls it super. And then it does this thing that says set content view. Let's see if it's gone ahead and loaded. Great. So the content view, by default, it's called r.layout.main. R is actually a generated file that you should never modify that just has references to your resources. The resource layout.main, what it is it's an XML file. In Android development, a lot of the code that you write will be declarative programming, where you're actually writing something in an XML to make a resource. So you're not actually writing it like in Java, you're making a resource. And what it's doing here is it's saying load this view up. This view has a linear layout, which is to organize views, and then it's got a text view. This text view has the text of @string_hello. Strings also use resource files. So we have a strings.xml. And I know that a lot of this is going fast, but that's kind of expected. and it says hello world, comma, years at Rose. And that's what you're seeing on the screen. You're saying hello world, years at Rose. And then in the title bar, it's just the name of the app. So if I was to change this to say hello class, it would say hello class instead. And if instead of having one of them, I instead had 3 of them, you would expect it to say hello class 3 times. I'm going to use the shortcut key, Command Shift F11, and go ahead and run it. And you can see now when it runs, there's not one text view, but there are 3 text views. And I changed the string to say hello class. So that's the quick and dirty introduction. I'll get the slides caught up a little bit here. So making hello world is very easy with the template that they give you. This template comes from the Android Developer Tool Eclipse plugin, and it's something you should always use. So we changed the text. We added 3 extra text views, and that's why you can see 3 of them, because there are 3 text view instances. The slides are really just here for your reference later so you can remember what we did. It's really annoying to watch a whole video when you just want like an overview, so that's what the slides are really for. So let's go ahead and start making some more changes. So the first thing I want to do is, let's say I wanted these to be centered instead of up here in the upper left. So let's go ahead and see what would need to happen to center these. To center these, what I'm going to do is, right now there is a linear layout, and it's oriented vertical. So that's why when we put things on, they were vertically arranged one above the other. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a second linear layout, and I'm just going to type in the XML directly. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this top one be a horizontal. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the second linear layout centered within it. So instead of fill parent, I'm going to say wrap content. And then I'm going to add layout gravity center. For now, I'm typing in the XML file directly, but there are actually multiple ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you the GUI editor first. First, I'm going to see if this actually does anything useful. I make mistakes all the time, so I'm going to goose something up. So it should be centered. The vertical linear layout is centered within the horizontal one. So there's a horizontal one, and then this linear layout is centered within it. A better way to actually look at this instead of running it is to click on this Layout tab, and you can see how things are laid out. I'm going to switch it to a 3.2 inch in portrait mode, and so you can see that I've got these 3 views. If you open up the outline, show view outline, it actually shows you a really nice outline. So you can see that we've got a linear layout here. And its properties are listed to the side. So it wrapped its content on height, and then it centered within its parent. Layout center says center me within my parent. And then if we wanted to center up these guys, what we could do is we could center the content within them. So there's actually layout.gravity, which is center me and my parent, and then there's just plain old gravity, which is center the content that's in me. So if I was to make this one centered, you would see it would just say centered. And then if this bottom one I wanted to center it, you'd see I could center it. And so figuring out what the properties are for views and figuring out how to use these properties to get what you want becomes very important. Now I'm going to only need 2 total, so I'm just going to blow this middle one away. Cool. You can also change a number of other things. You can change things like the text size. So let's say I wanted to make this one larger. Let's say I wanted to make it a 16 point. I'm going to type 16 SP. That made it a little bigger. Let's go with a full 20. You can also change things like the margins. So if I wanted a margin around this guy of, I don't know, 10 dp. dp stands for density independent pixels. SP stands for Scalable Density Independent Pixels. Typically use SP for text, and then DP for everything else. This one we can make it bigger as well. We're going to be doing a lot of little font changes, so I thought I'd kind of break it up. And so this one is going to be a little bit larger. Cool, so we don't want them to say hello class all the time, and we want to add some more image views and things like that. So we're going to need to add some more resources to this project to make it more interesting. So the first thing that we're going to add, so this is shown in the outline, is we're going to add a couple of images. You can click on my link here, and you can go and you can download these images. I've actually downloaded them before, so I don't really need to download them again. And what you can do is you can go to these images. There should be 4 in there. One is a plus symbol. One is a little icon that's 48 by 48. One is just a picture of me. And one is an X. I borrowed the add and remove from the book that we're using. So hopefully they don't mind since they're making you buy their book. Bringing in resources is really easy. I just did a copy, and then here I'll do a paste. Boom, it adds them. And then one of the magic things is the r.java file. You can see that it added references to all these things for you auto-magically. So you don't ever have to modify this file, this r.java. But now we can make reference to these things because we brought them in. So let's do that. Let's make reference to these things. Let's add ourselves an image view. So I'm going to say add. I want to add an image view. Oops, I put it below. I want to move it to the top. And I want to set its source to be the drawable for Dave Fisher. Presto, I'm on the screen. That was exciting. Looks like it's got me over to the left, so what do I need to do there? I need to say this linear layout, make your gravity center. Is that what I need to do? I'm obviously not a professional at text views. There we go. So that's great. We brought in that resource. Another resource we might want to do is, let's say we don't want the black background, but we want a different background. In the same way that we have strings as resources, we can also have colors as resources. The style is, you could put them all into the same file. I could put a color resources into my strings.xml, but wouldn't it be better to organize if we just made a new file? With XML files, you can go in and you can edit the XML by hand if you like, so you can start typing some things in the XML. It should start saying what the version is. Or if you'd rather, they have a GUI Editor built into the ADT plugin. And so we could say we add a color. The color I want to add is I want to add a background color. And let's say we wanted its value to be, I think I picked a magenta, 5500cc. This is 2 hex values for alpha from 0 to 255, so I say FF, which is fully opaque. Red, I picked 55, which is a little bit of red, I don't know, about a quarter red. No green, but quite a bit of blue. So that's my color. And you can see that typing in the editor here actually writes XML code for you, which is kind of neat. So it says color, background, and it gives it a value. If we wanted to go use that new resource, I could say this linear layout, this is the highest level one, make your background be that color. Presto, it'll change colors, which is kind of cool. Let's add some more resources. Let's go ahead and add some string resources. Some of the string resources that we're going to get, string resources, you can use the resource editor, and that's fine. I happen to know some of the strings we're going to need eventually. We're going to need a string value for decrement, and its value is going to be a capital D decrement. So I'm going to add that one, and then I'm going to go ahead and add another one called increment. And you can see that it's just adding this text for you, which is really not too exciting. With strings, it's easy enough that you could have also, just copied and pasted and played with the XML. A couple of the other ones we're going to need years, I don't know, title. I'll say years intro. And it's going to say Dave Fisher has been at Rose for, and then I'm going to say some number of years, 10 years. And this is our years start value. I'll also do something fancy here. You can make formatted print strings as well. And so you can do a %d years. What's actually recommended to make it localizable is you add this $1 in there as well. Then this way when you localize it you can change the order. So it's recommended you say $1D. So these are some of the string resources that we need. You could do these in code as well, but the string resources is the recommended approach. So this hello class, I want its text to be not the hello string, but the year's intro. And this one I want it to be, instead of the hello string, the year start value. So Dave Fisher has been at Rose for 10 years. This one's a little too big. Take him down to 18. I lost my colon. Alright, let's add some other things. We're going to want to add 2 buttons. So we'll go ahead and add a button. And we'll add a second button. These buttons default to having an ID value, and that ID value is also used as the text that's on the button. We want the text on the button to be, one to be increment, the other we want it to be decrement. The text is obviously what's visible on the button. The other thing that's important is the ID. The ID is how we're going to refer to these in code. So I'm going to call this one's ID dec button. This one I'm going to make its ID ink button. And then I'm also going to need to refer to this text field because I'm going to change its value later. So I'm going to say make it, the syntax here is kind of crazy, @ ID / years text view. Also personal preference. I kind of like my buttons to take up the width and then have like a left and a right margin. I think that looks a little better than centered. Your choice. So I'm going to make this one also be centered by a left and a right margin. You'll obviously get better with practice. This one also, it might be nice if it had a little margin on the top. You get better with practice of doing these GUI layouts. But you can see this looks good enough. Good enough for government work. So I saved this guy. And if we run it now, so I did the Control-Shift F11, you can see that we get a substantially new look, and it looks just like the layout that we were expecting. If you click the buttons, they don't really do anything. If you click on Menu, it doesn't really do anything. But you can click on Home. You can see I've done this example a couple times. So this one is right here. Done it many times. So I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and drag that icon over. And we'll put it just right here in the middle over here. So you can see at present it has no icon associated with it. Now let's go ahead and fix the icon just because that's pretty easy. So I have an icon resource in here. You set the icon in the manifest file. The manifest file is where you set like details about your app. So one of the fields in here is the icon. It's currently set to icon. I'm just going to change it to Dave icon. Run it again. And you can see, like, before we even loaded, it changed the icon there. It's interesting. Somehow it changed that one as well. So if I click on it now, it does the same thing. Icons are easy. I just thought I'd show you how easy an icon is to do. So that's all you need to do to add an icon. Let's do some more stuff. Wouldn't it be nice if these buttons did something? I think that would be super. Connections in code. So the connections in code are all about those IDs that we made. So if we look in here, we can see the word ID in various places. So we've got IDs to our buttons. We've got an ID to our text view. So we're going to reference those in our class. So after we set the content to be that layout, we can get access to the buttons. So we can get access to the ink button by saying typecast. The way it works is to say find view by ID. Oops, find view by ID r.id.ink button. You can see that there's red underlining on the button. That's because I haven't imported anything about buttons. Control-Shift-O or Command-Shift-O on a Mac. It'll bring in the appropriate imports. Love that about Eclipse. I definitely complained about it being slow at times, but it definitely has its advantages. So now I've got a reference to the ink button and the deck button. For the text view, I'm actually going to want to access it in various places. So I'm going to make a member variable. So I'm going to call it, I don't know, years text view. Oh, I forgot. I'm supposed to use the style where I make my member variables start with an M. They try to push that style. I'll try where I remember, but I've been doing it without the M for too long to learn something new. Old dogs. So text view, oops, I just mean to say M years view. You could also say this dot M years view. Sometimes I leave off the this, and the only reason I leave off the this is because of that stupid pinwheel that pops up as it's thinking about trying to help me. I appreciate it, but only when it's fast. Find view by ID r.id.years text view. Cool. So now we've got a reference to these things. It's called, you can also call it capturing the graphic views. Let's prove that we've actually got it. Let's make a member variable, an integer called years counter. We'll start it off with a value of 9 just so we can see that it's doing something. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new string, and we're going to format it using, I should really use my string formatter, but I'm feeling lazy. %d years, and I'll pass in m years counter. That'll make us a new string, and then we'll say m years text view dot, here's the really slow one, set text. Sometimes it is just painfully slow to pop these up. I paused it just so you wouldn't have to sit through the pinwheel of doom. Oh, and then I just did it again. Usually it's faster the second time. So set text. I want to set the text to my message. So this is hopefully going to set that to say 9. So when I run it, and it launches, instead of saying 10, it should say 9. So this was just to prove that we are actually accessing that view, and we can change its value. Now what we'd really like to do is we'd like to be able to click on these buttons and have that change the number that's there. That seems like a good feature for this app. Just like you've done with Java before, you need to create a listener. The listener for buttons is called an OnClickListener. This works just like it did in Java. There's a lot of ways you can do it. You can set its listener to this, and you can make the years at rows, implement, the OnClickListener. You can make a named inner class, or I assume you're Java programmers and you don't mind at all if I just make an anonymous inner class. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to make an anonymous inner class for an OnClickListener. Technically, it's a view.onClickListener. If you left off view here, it would still work fine. And what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to take my mYears counter, increment it by 1, and since I'm going to be doing this in a couple places, I'm just going to say update years label. Let's make a little helper function. Again, Eclipse makes these things easier. Just say create it, and it puts it in here. Oops, I didn't want to put it inside. I wanted to put it inside the class. And what I really wanted to do is I wanted to do those things inside this helper. Cool, and then whenever I click on this button, it'll increment it, and it'll update the years label. Let's do a very similar task for decrement, and then we'll see if our two buttons actually do something. So we're going to decrement the button. And so when I run it now, hopefully those buttons will actually do something. So it comes through. Click on increment a few times. Decrement a few times. You can see it actually changes. There was a little glitch when I started it. That's because I didn't call update label here. Just because, it started off with 10, then it said 9, and it was all confused. Cool. So we've got an app that actually does something, which is kind of cool. The value 23, though, it's not persistent, which means it's just in a variable that if this program were to close and open, it would change. And what's even worse, I think, is if you change from portrait to landscape, it's just going to be a disaster. Let's just see it happen. So I rotate. A couple bad things happen. The first bad thing that happens is you can see that my view that I laid out doesn't work at all in landscape. And you can also see that I had actually incremented it up some. And you can see that, like, if I'm at 25 and I rotate back, I rotated, by the way, with Control F11. Sorry, Control F12. You can see that it resets each time, and then here if I say decrement, it'll actually go to 8 because the whole 8-9 thing. So we need to fix this. First, I want to make portrait or landscape look like something decent. I'm going to set this back to 10. So to make a portrait view, what you actually do is you create a new folder. The new folder needs to have a very specific name. It needs to be called Layout Land. And if it goes into landscape, it'll look to see if there's something here for it. And if there is, it'll use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy my old main. I'm going to paste it into Layout Land. And I'm going to double click on it here. To get this particular one to look good in landscape, it's actually pretty easy. Really, the only thing we need to do is we just need to move the image view into the horizontal, which was pretty straightforward. And then if we want him to look good, we can set gravity on his parent. to say center the things that are in me. And so now you can see that actually looks pretty reasonable, and that was an easy fix, right? So now when I run it, my landscape should actually look like something usable. Cool. We still have the problem though, is if I take it up to 22, I rotate it, you can see it immediately pops back to 10. That's because with Android, when you rotate it, it relaunches your app. It's just like, you hit the back button, and then you rotate, and then your app launches. Not necessarily the best explanation, but that gets you the idea. I was pretty surprised by this, to be honest, whenever I first started working on this. I'm an iPhone developer but first, and I was shocked the first time I saw that. But that's the way it works. So let's figure out how to fix it. So what we really want to do is we want to save data, right? We want to be able to make persistent data. The function that's called, that you should use to save data is called onPause. So let's go ahead and override the onPause method. So I'm going to say source, override. We're going to do an override for onPause. So this is called when your program is going to leave the foreground. And this is your chance to save information. There are a bunch of ways to save information in Android, the best of which is probably to use SQLite. You can also do things like writing to files. The solution we're going to use here, though, is called a shared preference. For working with shared preferences, I happen to know that there's a couple things we're going to need. We're going to need two key values. So trying to remember how to make a constant. I'm going to call one of them prefs key, and it's just going to be prefs key. And then I'm going to make another one called years key. Prefs key is going to reference my preferences object. Years key is going to be the value. It's a key value coding. It's going to be the key for the years value. This will be a little cryptic, but whenever we get to learn about preferences, we'll talk about it more. So we're going to use shared preferences. I'm just going to call it prefs. The way you get it is you say get shared preferences. You have to give it a name, so it's going to be called prefs key. And then you also have to give it a mode. I'll go ahead and be good. Activity.mode private. Private just means no other apps can use this shared preferences, just me. And then the way you edit the shared preferences is you need to get an editor. So we're going to edit the preferences. And then what we're going to do is into this preferences we're going to put an integer for the key years key, and it's just going to be m years counter. And then once we've modified it, all we want, we're going to hit commit. So that's how you add things in to a shared preference. What we should do to get them out is we're going to say we're going to get the same preferences, and we're going to say, hey prefs, get me the int for the years key. And then I think this is clever. If it doesn't exist, so the first time you run it, it won't exist, give me a default value. I'm going to say make the default value 10. And now I can take off the default value up here. So if it doesn't exist, give me 10. So just to prove that it's working, we'll say give me 8. Cool. And so at this point, we've loaded it from the preferences, and when you hit pause, it saves it into the preferences. So now when we load it, the first time it loads, it should say 8. So it's going to load it up in the emulator. And it says 26. Oh, I've I've run this app before with that same prefs and that same key, so it remembered it from the last time I ran it. Did not realize it would do that, but I've got too many identical things going on. All right, moral of the story wasn't that it would start with 8. The moral of the story is that it would remember it when we rotated. Right now it's 16, click rotate, still 16. If you click back, and then you relaunch it, still 16. So you can see we've actually done our first little bit of persistence, which is a topic we'll cover in the course more in detail. This is just kind of a little example. Another thing that will be nice for our little starter app is apps in general should support the menu, right? So when you click menu, usually something should happen. If you don't really need a menu, you don't have to support it, but it's a good feature that a lot of users expect. So let's make a menu. Menus are created by overriding the method onCreateOptionsMenu. OnCreateOptionsMenu. What it does is it has a return type for whether you've done something or not. So I'm going to return true. I'm also going to go ahead and call super. Pretty common to break those up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a menu item called IncMenuItem. And I'm going to create it by saying menu.add and I'm going to add it. I'm going to need a group ID, which is just going to be 0. I'm not going to use groups in this menu. An item ID. I'm going to make a pound or a constant for this called ID item increment. Order. They don't need to be in any order, so I'm going to say none. And my title resource ID is going to be r.string.increment. And then a very similar thing for decrements. I suppose I ought to make these two item IDs. These will also be constants, but they'll be ints. This one is going to be, I'll be good, I'll say menu first. Really, menu first is just defined as 0, I think. And then for dec, I'll make it first +1. Oops. It's obviously yelling that it doesn't know what menu item is. Command-Shift-O, fix that right up. Another thing I'm going to do is I'd like to use those icons that I brought in, the remove and add icons. So I'm going to say set icon r.drawable.add. And then for the deck menu item, I'll set an icon for him to r.drawable.remove. The icon's an X because it was for remove, not subtract, but I'm going to use the icon all the same. So this should create a menu for us. The menu won't do anything yet, but it should get created. So the menu got created. If we hit the menu key, you can see it pops up with, oops, increment and increment. That's not what I meant to do. Let's change that to decrement. So if I hit menu, you can see it pops up with an increment and decrement. Personally, I think this looks pretty good. I think it's neat that you can pretty quickly get a slick-looking menu item to pop up. That really was very little work for you, right? At present, clicking on increment and decrement doesn't do anything. These buttons still work, but these don't do anything yet. That's because we haven't implemented that yet. So let's make them do something. The function that gets called when you click a button is on options item selected. And again, we'll cover all these things more in depth as the course goes on. We'll go ahead and call super. And the idea is any of them that you handle, you're going to return true on, but if you don't handle it, you're going to return false. What we're going to do is we're going to do a switch statement on the item ID. If it is an item ID for increments, then what we're going to do is we're going to increment the counter, update the label, and then return true, because we handled that case. And if it's not increments, we'll see if it's decrements. And if it's decrement, we'll subtract, and then we'll update the label. And if it's neither of those things, we'll just return false, saying we don't handle it. Obviously, it should be one of those two for the code that we've written so far. So if we load this up, we increment it to some value, we hit menu, we hit increment here, it should change it as well. So now you can change it with the menu as well. Cool. So this is all we're going to add to this little example app. You got to see a lot of stuff. You got to see portrait and landscape orientations. I got to see a little bit about persistence. Slides got way behind, but I mean all the information we did in the slides is here. I didn't actually use this. We'll do that later in the course where we use the resource from the strings. Adding the colors, playing with the editor. Really impressed with this outline and property GUI editor. Reading books, it says that eventually stuff will get too complex to where these don't work anymore. But for simple stuff like this, it works great. So I recommend you use it as long as you can, right? Getting references to the views, changing the value of the text, creating a listener for the buttons, saving off those values, and then finally we did adding a menu and responding to the menu clicks. So that was it for the demo. My assumption is you haven't seen anything with Android development, and that was way too fast. That was intentionally a fire hose. It was just kind of meant to be an overview, just so that whenever you start doing it, it won't seem quite as foreign. This is the development environment. These are some of the view widgets that you can use. We used a linear layout. In this class, we'll be covering linear layout, relative layout, table layout, and those are the only real layouts we'll focus on. There's also a frame layout. And the big thing we did is trying to get you used to this idea of using resources like strings, colors, main, because that's going to be a big part of your Android development life. So even though you know Java, you don't necessarily know Android's version of Java. So that's it for the demo. Let's go handle a couple administrative things. So demo done. Let's handle some administrative things. This part I'll do a little bit quicker. So some administrative things. What this course is all about. It's all about teaching you declarative programming. Oops, I should say declarative. Using resources. It's not just the Java language. It's not like SE6 that you're used to. It's learning a bunch of Android libraries and how their classes work. Some of the topics we'll cover: interfaces with controls and layouts, menus, launching activities, graphics, drawings, and animations, accessing the internet. I could have listed another 50 topics here probably. These are some of the things we'll cover in the class. The book that we're choosing to use for the class is Professional Android 2 Development. To be honest, I'm not sold on this book. It's not like with iOS development. I think there's one author that just really knocked it out of the park. The beginning iPhone 3 development folks from AppPress, they hit a home run. Android's still waiting for somebody to write a great book. This is a good book. It was the best of the ones that I saw. Things that it does that I like is it's up to date with Android 2.1 at least, if not 2.2. It's written by Retromir. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name. Yeah, certainly didn't say it right. Won't try a second time. He actually works at Google. He gives the opening talk at the Google I/O about introducing Android. Definitely a sharp guy. Other good things about the book, it does a really good job of breaking down the Hello World template, telling you what's there. Has a real nice example with a to-do list. It's based on array adapter, which is a topic we won't cover until for a couple weeks, but we'll go through its to-do list. Also really like his compass view example, some stuff he does with earthquakes. Has some good examples in the book, some good content. I picked this book, but really there were three that I considered pretty strongly to use for this course, each with their pros and cons. I went ahead and listed their prices here just to show you that these are Amazon prices. These things are not expensive. If you're going to take the time to read this book, it's well worth the $26.69, with free shipping on these things. Just to talk about the pros and cons of these different things, why I picked the book that I did. This first one, Android Wireless Application Development, I'd say what it's got going for it is it's probably the best written. If you were to give it to your high school English teacher, she would say that this one gets the best letter grade. It's the easiest to read. One down thing about this book is it's only up to date through Android 1.5, which that'd be fine for this class. I will say it's really easy to read. It is probably the one that stays the most introductory as well. So if you find a lot of this stuff intimidating, it's a good one to read because it keeps it light, right? It keeps it introductory for a lot of the book. So that's good. What it doesn't do quite as well is it does tend to repeat Google's documentation. Here's a text view. Here's a button. Here's a radio button box, and it kind of is, I don't know, a little repetitive of the documentation. This one is really great. I think this one has the best example in it. It's got a Sudoku example, which I think is really good. The one thing it does that's bad is sometimes it gives you the code to do Sudoku, but it doesn't explain it at all. It's just here's this code, type it in, see what it does, figure it out yourself. It's not quite that bad, but for a beginner, it doesn't talk about it quite as much. But it does have some really good stuff in there. And then there's the one we selected. Picking between these two, it was largely this one's 150 pages. This one's 500 pages. It's long. That's an exaggeration. So this one I decided has more quality content. There is a little bit more garbage to wade through. Garbage is the wrong word, but he's a little too wordy at times. But really, if you really wanted to learn this stuff, if you read all three of these books, you would be way better off, right? So I mentioned them all here. Made you buy this one for the class. But I bought all three. I'm reading all three of them. And it's actually kind of nice because when you learn a topic, you typically have to see it more than one time before it sinks in. And so you're why do I need three books that are all introductions? They're going to cover a lot of the same stuff. And that's true, they do. But it's a really good way to learn things, to kind of see it multiple times, to reinforce what you're learning. So I just thought I'd speak about that. The other big place that we're going to, our other big textbook is developer.android.com. There's a lot of great stuff here. We're going to be back here all the time. One of the things that I really like is it's got some tutorials on here. The first one being a Hello World tutorial. You're going to work this one for next class, just getting started. There's a Hello Views tutorial, which is really a dozen tutorials. We're going to have you work some of these in a lab. Localizations for making your app internationally translated. A couple things with unit testing. A really good Notepad tutorial. Other things that are on here are samples. The samples you actually, once you do the download or once you finish it, There's a lot of things that you can see that Google's provided as samples. Some of them are really fun to play. I like Lunar Lander. It's a good time. The other place where you can get information is there's a ton of great websites out there in the world. One of them that I've looked at a couple times is thinkandroid.wordpress.com. They've got some good things on here. There's a bunch of good references online. You could go nuts finding websites to help you with Android, which is really pretty cool. More administrivia. This is the breakdown for letter grades. Attendance is going to be a big part of your grade in this class, so make sure you're here and coming. We've got 20 meetings. It's worth 20 points, so each day is a percent. Letter grade breakdown, standard Rose-Hulman stuff. You can see it. It's here in the slides. Just a bit more about me. I'll try to keep it short. What have I done with mobile development? So first off, introducing me, I thought I'd say this is me. This is my wife, Christy. This is our now 7-month-old daughter, McKinley. We also have 2 dogs. You can see from the image, I'm actually I'm an Apple guy, right? So this is my wife's iPhone, my iPhone, my iPod Touch, my wife's Nano, my iPad. There's even more stuff. We're a Mac family, right? So I use my Mac for development. But one of the nice things about Android is you can do it with a Mac, with a Windows machine, with a Linux box, whatever you want, right? Where I've gone to school, a little background on me, I was actually a Rose-Hulman student. So in addition to being a faculty member, I was a student here as well. Started off as a CS ME double major. At some point I decided that was going to be a lot of work. Dropped the CS part. Fortunately, they said that when I quit, I was going to get a CS and math minor, so I thought, hey, that's super. Sounds good to me. From there, I did my PhD work out at Stanford. I actually did that in biomechanics, which is kind of funny because I don't do anything with biomechanics anymore. I did shoe studies on knee osteoarthritis. It was fun, but I really don't use it really at all. But if I wanted to be perfectly honest, I would say my undergrad was at Rose, my PhD stuff was at Stanford. And then since then, I've been back at Rose-Hulman, and I take a class every quarter that I've been here, so I'm a permanent learner. I sit in on classes and stuff at Rose. It's fun. So this is really my school track. In the summertime, I'm pretty lucky. Anybody recognize this building? Know what this place is? I just thought I'd try. So this is One Infinite Loop. This is actually Apple campus. Lucky enough to get a workout at Apple in the summertime. Last 3 summers I've been working over here. This is Mariani 1. I work in the accessories department. So the accessories department does things like managed to write a small amount of code that runs on the keyboard dock for the iPad. Did some work for the Nike Plus iPod Sport Kit sensor a couple years ago, which is kind of neat. And these are just some other accessories that the group makes. Really fun place to work. I do firmware development for them, which means I program microcontrollers in C, which is what I was brought on to do. Actually, I was brought on because of my biomechanics background in the Nike Plus iPod Sport Kit, which was just kind of fortunate. One summer there, they said that one of my projects was going to do some iOS development, and they said they could bring in somebody to help with that part since I was a firmware guy, and I said, no, I want to do that. That's going to be fun. And that's kind of where I got my start with mobile development. In the embedded side stuff, I do teach a couple courses over in the ME department. I teach a class called ME 430 along with a couple other professors, where we teach you how to program in C for embedded microcontrollers. There's also a follow-up course to that called ME 435. I actually had a CS professor joke that I should leave the MEs and become a CS professor, and my response was, you guys don't do enough programming for me. There's almost no embedded programming classes in the CS department, so I stick in the ME programming ME world because there's more programming there, which is kind of funny, but kind of true. So you should take these classes even though you're a CS person. These are some really good embedded microcontroller programming courses that you could take over with us on the ME side. So why mobile application development? Why not do stuff in Python? Why not do stuff in Java? What's so special about mobile application development. When I answer that question of why mobile application development, I'll say that I've spent a lot of time at classes at Rose-Hulman, done a lot of projects, which I assume you have as well. Some of the projects I've done, just to kind of flip through a couple slides. The introductory course 120, which I'm teaching a section of now. I made a Tetris game. I added a giant pumpkin piece to my Tetris game just for fun. This thing is hard to place. If you took the robotics section, you probably made some type of robot GUI. If you moved on, you took 220, which was required for this class, so I hope you did it. You may have made the Minesweeper game, which was a really neat project. I thought it was fun to make, so you made your own Minesweeper. Or if you took it a different year, you might have done a vector graphics. If you took it with Claude, you probably did both, which was fun. Also taken taken a bunch of classes, but like the OpenGL 351 class, did a little thing with OpenGL. The reason I bring these up is who all saw this app, right? So I mean, obviously, I saw it. I made these things. I usually force my professor to see it. If I sit in on a class, I say, "Hey, professor, look at what I made," just to kind of show him. So in this class, who was it? It was JP, Dr. Meller, saw this. I show my wife. Sometimes I show my dogs just so more people see it. But we're up to like 3-4 people plus 2 dogs that saw this, right? So there's really not much exposure if you're making things yourself. Whereas with mobile app development, there is immediately a worldwide distribution channel. With Android apps, that I found this cute little website. It tracks the number of Android app downloads. Looks like they're up over 2 billion so far. And Android's way behind the iOS folks, right? But both places, Android and iOS, really great opportunities for people to get their stuff out there into the world. Plus, it's a really cool platform. The iPhones or all these Android devices that have like camera, sensors, accelerometers, just these amazing mobile devices. Plus, of course, people care about the potential for profit. I would say your best source of profit is the job skills that you're going to learn. Companies are looking for mobile app developers right now, big time. So this is a good skill for you to go out there and get. The other thing you can do is it's actually significantly lowers the playing field for small companies. So if you as an individual or you as a group of people wanted to start a company, try to get some apps out there, you could totally do it. Some people are already. Some people in this class are. If you compare like the barrier to entry, like let's say you and a couple friends wanted to make a PSP game, forget about it, right? Like a Nintendo DS game, forget about it. But now all of a sudden you can. Like small companies can make these games and get them out there and put them for sale. And then of course, most importantly, why mobile app development? Because you can impress your friends. Always number one. Talk about a couple things that I've done that started to get me hooked on this. The first mobile app I ever made wasn't that long ago. What was it? Not this most recent summer, but the summer before. I've got a friend works out at Google. His name's Rich. He hosts a weekly TV night. And so it's always fun to go over to Rich's place and watch TV. First off, he's got a sweet house being a Google employee. Every week back when we were doing this, we'd always draw names for the best chairs, right? So you'd watch TV and you'd draw names for the best chairs. We'd always write on sheets of paper and put them in a hat and draw them out. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I made an app for this? So I made a little iPhone app. And all it did is you can add names to the wheel. You can click on spin the wheel, and it randomly selects a name for you, right? And then, that person would get to pick a chair, right? I called the app TV Night Picker. And I really didn't know how to give it to Rich, to be perfectly honest. And so what I did is I put it on the store. I put it on the Apple App Store. And so I knew that at least 2 people would download it, because I knew I would download it. And I knew Rich would download it. So I knew that there were going to be at least 2. Now the question is, who else would download it? And something kind of fun happened. The first month, you can see the numbers on this chart. 200 people downloaded it this first month. I have no idea who are these other 198 people that need to pick seats for TV night? I just thought that would fun. And then the next month, like 300 people downloaded this app. Who are these 300 people? It fell off some after that, which was no surprise. And then, for no reason, in November, 600 people downloaded this app. It started to fall off some after that. But, I mean, I was hooked. I mean, it's like, oh, this is fun. So I was like, I don't know who these people are, but it's neat to make something that has such exposure that so many people look at. Looking at the total number of downloads, it was up at like 2,000 people downloaded this app before I stopped tracking it. And I just thought that was fun. So I was hooked. One downside about Apple development is it's $100 per year to be a developer. And I started off as an individual, but then later I ditched the individual account and I made a company account. My company is Mobac Design. That's me. There's some advantages, some tax benefits to being a company. Also, you can have as many employees as you want in your company, whereas individuals is just one guy. So TV Night Picker is no longer available in the App Store. Maybe I'll put it back up with the company. And then I started a company called Mobac Design, stands for Mobile Accessory Design. I can't say we have many products out there at present because I'm busy. We do have a website and everything. I made the website, so you can't make fun of it when I'm around. You can make fun of it when I'm not around. I don't mind. But you can see there's some information about the about an app that we've got up in the store. Keep saying we. The other person in the we is a high school buddy of mine, MBA guy named Edland. He helped get the company off the ground and things like that. But I do all the development and stuff. The one app that we've got for sale is called EasyCam. What it does is so like an iPad doesn't have a camera, but an iPhone does. What the EasyCam app does is it lets you make a wireless connection between the two, and then whatever you see on this camera, you see live streaming on this device. You can also do stuff like taking pictures and things like that. If you ever want to check out my website, some of the videos on here are fun. I won't make you watch them now, but I've strapped it to an airplane, which was kind of fun. Took some pictures from the sky. Attached it to some robots, just being goofy. Oh, this one's fun. I put it on some helium balloons with a friend. You should check out my videos. Some of them are comical at best. So that's an app I made. Don't mind sharing numbers about it. It's not enough money to write home about. It's not negligible, but it's kind of neat. The free version has an opportunity to make money through ads. You can see that there's been like 23,000 people download this app, which is kind of cool. It's been up. I put it up a couple months ago. So what is this? This is showing like 3-4 months or something like that. So like 23,000 people. And if you look at the map, these are people from all over the world. This is over 100 countries. I think there are over 100 countries. Over 100 countries people have looked at this thing. This one's free. This one is $3. I keep meaning to lower the price. I keep forgetting. Maybe I'll do it after this video. But you can see there's been like 788 people, and you get real money for this, right? So it costs $3. In the iPhone world, you get $2 out of every 3, basically. So this is it's $1,500. It's not quite that much, but it's close with the iAds. It's $1,500. And then there's another one. This is 4 in a row. This one's just for free and for fun. So you can make money, which is fun. I will say that everybody in this room will eventually get a good job, right? And eventually at a job, you'll make something ballpark. You'll probably make more eventually. You'll be making like $500 a day, which seems crazy, but you really can make a lot of money when you're working. And so if this app made say $1,500, the question is, did it take me more than 3 days to write it or less than 3 days to write it? I'll say it took me way more than 3 days to write this app. But I definitely really enjoyed it, and so it's really fun. So this is something that you could do, which is a good time. Talked about it a couple times, but I also teach an iPhone development class. We did this last quarter. It came off just really well. It was a lot of fun. If you want to check it out, the website for it is just rosehulman.edu/iOS programming. And so this is the website for it. Should be fairly easy to remember. I went ahead, I was good. I made all my videos available from that class. If you ever want to learn about iPhone development, there's a lot of good stuff there. It's also a podcast up on iTunes, so it's kind of fun. You can check that out. So that's a little bit about me. You've got some information about the course. You got to watch a demo. Now it's your turn. So your turn, your assignment. Lab 0, install the tools. So if you click on, if you go to the course webpage, you can see due for Friday is Lab 0. Lab 0 is to do the Hello World demo. There are 2 places that you can get instructions for Hello World. The book, I think, does a great job of explaining it, pages 18 through 28. I recommend you read those. The other place is you can go to the tutorial at developer.android.com. This one's nice because it goes through the installation process as well. Creating the Android virtual device, and then running this thing. And then it actually has you make a couple changes to it as well, which is pretty great. There's some more information about installing. And so this is your assignment for next time. Come back next time. What we're going to start doing a lot in this class is we're going to be doing demos. I don't really lecture much. We just kind of learn, we do demos, and we learn topics as we go. Hopefully in this class I'll allow a little bit more in-class time for like time to work on labs. So hopefully we'll give you some time in class to work these things out. So come back on Friday, get the tools installed, and we'll pick up and we'll do some cool stuff together. Cool. See you next time.